First of all, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come here. I know it's close to exams. I remember being, back at New College. I think it was 11 years ago that I was out here as an undergrad. So the way we've set up this event is that we'll keep it sort of small, and everybody is going to be free to ask questions as we go along over the course of the evening. So I'm Manveen. This is Samir. And that's Henry. So what we'll do is I'll start off by telling you a bit about each of ourselves. We're going to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to go into six themes for the night. Okay? Just before we start, just so we know who's in the room, do we have any high school students? So we have a couple. Okay, awesome. What grade? You can just shout out. 11. Okay. Any grade 9 or 10s? Oh, we have a couple. Wow. Okay. Any grade 8s? No, okay, not right. Yeah. Perfect, and first year undergrads? No first years, eh? Okay. Okay, second years? Perfect, third years? Fourth years? Any grad students in the room? One. Okay, all right, perfect. Okay, so there's a range of audiences here. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be speaking in terms that are fairly broad. We're going to cover a whole range of topics tonight. So lots of different things that we'll get into, but we won't be able to get into a lot of depth because a lot of the questions that we answer will, the answer is dependent on your personal circumstances. Having said that, for each of the 6 segments, I'll introduce the segments as we come along. What we'll do is we'll start off with statements from the panel, and then we'll break it up to question and answers. And that's your chance to ask questions. But the only thing I'll ask is try to avoid questions that are super specific to your personal circumstances, just because that is best addressed on a one-on-one setting. If they're more general questions, this is probably the right venue because other people in the room will have the same question as well. The other thing before we start, so this event is being Facebook Lived. So we have a whole bunch of RSVPs for people who are joining us online as well. So they can't really see the audience, but they can see the panel. So what we'll do is every time we get a question, we're going to repeat that out so people online can actually capture the question. All right. So again, thanks to New College for making this happen. Thank you, Brenda, for putting this event together. Thanks to Rodrigo and Bonnie for helping to quarterback the whole event. So I'll start by telling you folks a bit about myself. So I'm a family doc right now. So I grew up in Singapore, immigrated to Canada when I was 18 with my parents. So I did not do high school here. Started off at New College as an undergrad, did a major in biochemistry and a specialist in a program called Genes, Genetics, and Biotechnology. So that was in 2005, 2006, when that was my first year of undergrad, so 11 years, like I said, this point. And then went into med school straight after undergrad, so 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school at the University of Toronto, and then did a 2-year residency in family medicine. And we can talk about all the different steps because I recognize there are folks at very different stages here, and sometimes the path to, what happens after med school may not be quite apparent. So we'll address all these issues tonight. So I did a 2-year residency in family medicine. So this is my 2nd year out in practice. In terms of what I do right now, so I do a whole bunch of different things. So I'm a full-time military physician with the Canadian Forces. So my full-time job, so it's very different from what a typical family doctor does as a medical officer with the Canadian Forces. My day-to-day job can be very different. It involves taking care of military members on a base, on a field setting, so on military exercises, potentially taskings domestically or abroad. It involves training in various environments. So I recently underwent some training to become a flight surgeon. So that's the doctor who looks after pilots and gets to fly around with air crew. So I can address questions specific to that sort of at the end if people want to talk. I'm happy to talk more about that. So besides that, I also work in the civilian healthcare system. I work mostly in a rural emergency department setting. And I also do some addictions medicine work in the Toronto area. So I'm kind of all over the place in terms of what I do. Samir and I both do a lot of work with pre-medical students, with medical students and residents. we are pretty familiar with the application process. In terms of the book itself, how it came about, really we wanted to put together this resource to reach as wide an audience as we could. So Samir and I are editors on this book. We have two other editors, Jahi and Ali. Jahi's a drop. The three of us went to medical school together. And Ali actually is trained as an accountant and just completed an MBA at INSEAD recently as well. So the four of us are editors on this book. We have about 15 chapter authors, so medical students, residents, and physicians who wrote various chapters of the book. And with, I think, 22 editors who took a look at the draft. We put out the book last year. It's reached, I think we're at about 35,000 people now that the book has gone out to, and we're just trying to get the message out. Really, it's, folks have asked us these questions in a variety of settings, so the whole point of doing the book was to distill points from multiple perspectives into something that people can take anywhere with them, so that, the collective wisdom of a whole bunch of folks could be put together and passed on. All right, so that's a bit of background. Maybe Samir, you can introduce and tell folks about yourself.
Sure. Hi guys, good evening. So thank you, Naveen, for the introduction. I just want to also thank all the parents who are here. I think it's a great step for them to kind of be involved in their kids' education so early on. I know my parents were a huge support for me when I was growing up in terms of being supportive and sending me to school in Toronto and whatnot. So I just want to thank the parents as well for being here and all the ones who are watching online as well. Just going back to my background. So I moved here when I was 17 years old, literally on my 17th birthday. I actually remember exactly the same for my passport, on the same day as my birthday. And I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. My parents are ethnically Indian. They were both physicians in India, moved to the Middle East a long time ago for better work opportunities, and then I was sort of born and raised over there. When I was looking at opportunities of becoming a physician, North America stood out to me because it's obviously, some of the top schools in the world are in North America, and for me the options were the US or Canada. And being from, a relatively middle-class family, for us, finances were obviously a huge consideration where I would go, and obviously reputation of the school and the caliber of the school. And so I chose to come to Toronto, mostly because it was a great school, financially feasible for me, and the culture seemed to be pretty good in the city. And so I did my 4 years of undergrad at New College, just like Naveen did, in a program similar to his. It was health and disease at that time, a specialist through human biology. I lived in residence for at least 2 out of my 4 years. And once I got into medical school after that, I went back and it was at John New College for a few years. So I've had a lot of time spent, not just in William Dew, but in New College, the residence buildings here. So a lot of this is very familiar to me, including being in one of these positions that you guys are in now. So 4 years of New College was 2005 to 2009, and then 4 years of medical school was 2009 to 2013, just like Naveen. And we actually met towards the tail end of undergrad and then most of med school. I'm currently finishing up my specialization in emergency medicine in Toronto, and I'm also concurrently doing a master's in public health at Harvard. I'll tell you kind of how that came about. So, my interest in ER was mostly inspired through acute care, something I saw a lot of in medical school. ER physicians are sort of the gatekeepers of the healthcare system. We see people from when they're born till pretty much when they die and everything kind of in between. So that's what inspired me to become an ER physician. And the more time I spent in emergency medicine, I realized there's a lot of process issues, a lot of systems issues, a lot of care issues, and that sort of made me think a bit more about medicine from a broader perspective, from a quality improvement standpoint. And so I sort of took another step and took some time off and went and did sort of part of my master's at Harvard, trying to focus on quality improvement innovation and sort of see how do we apply these principles of process improvement, systems improvement to healthcare, and specifically ER. And so, currently I spend a third of my time or more probably on my residency, a third of my time on my master's, and a third of the time, which Mindy and I kind of sort of co-share, is with pre-medical consulting and helping, give back to the New College community. If you look at both Naveen and sort of my journey, the reason we're so passionate about pre-medical education and providing resources to some of the students here is because we've both got unique kind of backgrounds, unique challenges. So for me, I know when I came here as an undergrad and international student back in 2005, with my goal to go into medical school, I did not know a single person who had gone into medical school as a foreign student, right? And so you can imagine the challenges, both for me, my parents, my family, in terms of me wanting to be a physician here in Canada when no one's really done that before, or there's no one that I knew of back then. And so, all those challenges that I kind of went through over, the first 4 or 5 years really kind of pushed me to make sure that whatever I've accomplished over those, 4 or 5 years, I'm able to at least give you guys back a small piece of that, right? It's not going to be specific to your situation, but it's sort of generalizations in terms of what you need to do to kind of get to that position. Really nothing is impossible, I'm one of maybe 4 or 5 people who've done something like that in the past decade. So for sure, for you guys, there's tons of opportunities. It's just a matter of reaching out to your mentors and having a plan for that pathway. So I'm going to pass it on to Henry so he can talk a bit about himself. But thank you again for coming, and hopefully we can share some more stuff today.
Hi everyone. So my name is Henry. Just a little bit about myself. So I'm currently a first-year resident in family medicine at Queen's University, and before that, I was born and raised in Taiwan, and I came to Canada at a very early age, at the age of 6, and I grew up in Vancouver until I came to U of T for university. U of T being, I think, a very prestigious institution, so that's why I chose it. And I must say, I must have been a great donor to this institution because I spent like 10 years at U of T, maybe spending like about $100,000 in tuition, so that's what I'm looking to pay off right now. So what did I do in the 10 years? I did 4 years of undergrad, 2 years of master's, and finally 4 years of medical school. For my undergrad, I majored in the laboratory medicine, pathobiology, and later on in master's, I did a research project on chronic kidney diseases, and then finally 4 years of medical school. Now, before medical school, it actually took me around three tries to successfully apply to medical school, and it was one of the authors of this book, Jai, who actually did a lot in coaching me and helping me to basically work on my application and help me with some of the interviews. And so that's why I am also very interested in supporting students, very much like you, to help you understand what are some of the tips and tricks on how to get into medical school. And also, I think this is a great opportunity if you can check out some of the tips and tricks that we have in this book. So now I'll just pass it on back to Manny and Samir. Thank you very much for coming.
Great, perfect. So we can get started then. So just before we start, so if anybody wants to, has a question and is afraid to ask, firstly, don't be afraid. This is meant to be low-key and informal, but if you are, so you can just post a comment on the Facebook Live video, and Samir will be checking the video over the course of the evening, and we'll get to your question when we can. So the link is MD Consultants Toronto. That's MDCONSULTANTS Toronto, TORONTO. That's where the event is being Facebook Lived. Perfect.